Have you ever felt like you lost something, but had no idea what it was? Like there's this hollow space inside you, and no matter what, it never goes away? That's how they lived. Two women who spent half a century with an ache in their chest. A silent pain that grew louder with the years. 50 years trying to fill something they didn't even know was missing. They were like two halves of the same heart, torn apart before they even opened their eyes to the world. They grew up far from each other, yet both carried the same missing: peace. And even without knowing it, life kept pulling one toward the other, as if an invisible string had been tying them together all along, waiting for the right moment to reconnect what was never meant to be broken. 1973, a 17-year-old girl stood trembling in the corner of a hospital room, holding two crying babies in her arms. Sweat clung to her forehead. Her eyes were red from sleepless nights. Fear pressed down on her chest like a weight too heavy to bear. It felt like the world had collapsed on top of her, and no one even noticed. The kind of pain that paralyzes, that makes you want to disappear. But there was no escape, no mom, no dad, no friend to hold her hand, just cold walls and rushed nurses who had no idea what she was feeling. No one to call, nowhere to run, only her and the decision that would change everything. In that sterile hospital room, with the scent of disinfectant and the beep of a monitor in the background, she signed the paper. Her hand shook. Her heart screamed. But the pen didn't stop. That signature didn't just break a document. It shattered her from the inside out. She kissed each baby one last time and watched them be taken through separate doors. One cry to the left, one to the right. And she stood there in the middle, torn in half by her own heart. She tried to believe it was the right thing, that maybe, apart, they'd have a better shot than together in poverty. But deep down, it felt like she was lying to her own soul, because she knew that kind of tear doesn't heal, not in them and not in her. She knew those girls would grow up with a wound they couldn't name, a homesickness for someone they never met, but somehow missed. Emma grew up in the chaos of New York City. People everywhere, horns blaring, crowded subways, neon lights that never turned off. But inside her chest, silence. Too much of it. She had friends, classmates, neighbors. But every time she walked into her apartment, it was like the city went mute, and all she heard was the echo of something missing. Every time she saw a mother with two daughters in the park, or sisters laughing on the subway, something inside her tightened. It was like forgetting the name of someone important, like carrying a homesickness with no face, no voice, no reason. In sunny California, the light poured through the window and laughter filled the house. But Lily, even in the middle of warm hugs, felt cold on the inside, as if her heart had always been beating. Incomplete. Birthdays were the worst. She'd get dressed, blow out candles, open gifts, but before stepping out of her room, she'd stare at the mirror and whisper, "Why does it feel like only half of me showed up to this party?" The years blew past like leaves in the wind, but that feeling, it never left. No matter how many Christmases, how many hugs, the emptiness stayed. Quiet, loyal. Emma had what many dream of: a good job, healthy kids, a loving husband. But at night, when the lights were out and her head hit the pillow, that same thought always came back. Why do I feel like I lost something, even with everything I have? On her 50th birthday, somewhere between flowers and laughter, her daughter handed her a small white box with a ribbon. A DNA test, one of those kits that claim to tell your story. But sometimes they rewrite it entirely. She chuckled softly, the kind of laugh that hides more than it shows. "That's silly, honey. What for?" But the truth? She gripped the box a little too tight, because something in her gut said this might change everything. Somewhere deep down, In a part of her she never touched, something stirred. Like an old door creaking open, like a whisper saying, "Maybe now you'll find who's been missing." She left the test on her dresser for days. Looked at it, looked away. Thought, what if I open this and my whole life shifts? And then one ordinary afternoon, over a quiet cup of coffee, she made the choice. She took the test, and the truth started to breathe. A few days later, mixed in with spam and ads, it was there. An email with the subject line, "Your results are ready." Emma clicked it without much thought. She expected a few distant cousins, maybe a surprise ethnicity, but what she saw made her stomach drop. Right at the top of the screen, Lily, and underneath it, bold letters, "Close relative, first-degree match." Time froze. Street noise faded. Suddenly, it was just her, the screen, and that name got her heart pounded in her throat. Her hands shook so much she could barely hold the phone. "Lily?" she whispered, voice cracking, and before she even knew why, a tear rolled down her cheek. With trembling fingers and a heart beating too fast, she typed what little she could manage. "Hi, I think we might have more in common than we think." It was short, but behind that one sentence were 50 years of swallowed tears. A soul reaching for its missing half. Lily froze. Her eyes read the words again, and again, and again. This can't be real. Her phone slipped from her hand, and for a second, it felt like the whole world tilted. She had done a test too, months earlier, hoped for answers, waited for a miracle, but nothing came, so she let it go. Tucked the hope away with all the other unanswered questions, until that message came. And suddenly, what she thought was in the past came alive again. Emma's message hit Lily like lightning on a clear day. Air vanished from her lungs. Something ancient and buried cracked open. Her heart was racing. Her fingers shook. She tried to type, but the words wouldn't come. The texts went back and forth, slow at first, then longer. Then came the question. Then the answer, plain, heavy, final, "We're sisters." And just like that, the world held its breath. Notifications faded. Time slowed down. Two halves finally recognized each other. The first call was all nerves and tears, laughter and silence. Their voices wobbled like they were trying to hug. To the phone. Every pause felt familiar. Every giggle echoed from deep inside. They recognized each other in the way they breathed, the way they paused, the silence that didn't need explaining. It felt like they had known each other their whole lives, like the clock had just been waiting for this call. A few weeks later, Emma packed her bags with shaky hands and a heart about to burst. This time, it didn't matter how far, how long, how many years had been lost. Nothing could keep them apart now. When their eyes met at the airport for the very first time, the world disappeared. No delays, no crowds, no announcements. Just the two of them staring and knowing. They ran. No hesitation. And when they hugged, it was like stitching their hearts back together. A soul-deep embrace that made time stop and say, "I'm sorry." They weren't broken anymore. They were whole. They cried, they laughed, and in that one embrace, 50 years of silence melted away. Today, they live like people who know life is urgent, like women who just woke up from a deep sleep and now want to feel everything. They take too many pictures, toast over the smallest things, eat dessert first, call each other sis with goofy grins that still feel unreal. Every day, they reclaim time with laughter, with presence, with love. They don't dwell on the what-ifs. The past is done. Now, they've chosen to forgive time and write the rest of the story themselves. All they feel is gratitude for this wild, beautiful miracle that no movie could have scripted, for finding each other, even after a lifetime apart, because sometimes life hides its best gifts in the last drawer. And just when you've stopped searching, it gives you something that changes everything. These two women proved one thing: time can separate bodies, but never souls that were born together. And real love, it always finds its way back home.